Welcome back. Today we have ourselves the legendary Samsung J730. That's the J7 Pro. This phone is a little underrated. It's one of the few budget Samsung phones that come with an aluminum chassis, meaning that it's really fall resistant and resilient. Now this one has served almost 5 years and it's still running. However, the screen that was placed here decided to die and we decided to get a new replacement screen. But then, before I proceed to replace the screen, I need to state a few things here. Do not mind the length of the video because at times I also wish to give you value. When you go to the market to buy replacement screens, as of 2024, there are about 3 qualities, which I can group into 2 brackets. That's the AMOLED or OLED version that has same or close to the same color reproductions as the original screen. And then there is an IPS version that was designed to be compatible with the screen, but it's very frail. And first of all, when you place it down flush with the frame of the phone, which makes it raised and susceptible to cracking at the slightest of falls because there's no supporting framework at the bottom of the glass. Now, the second type, which is the OLED, is a bit interesting in that the qualities are actually very far apart. Now, there's one whose resolution mimics the 400 pixels per inch resolution of the original screen, which I've gotten here. And then you'll find one whose resolution is just 720. It's not a full HD screen. And you can literally see the tiny dots or OLED that form the pixels, and it really makes and degrades the picture and the quality of this phone. So refrain from it. Strangely, on the market, at least the Ugandan market, those are the same price, the OLED version. So it's up to you to be able to visually tell apart a high resolution screen from a low resolution screen, and that means you should have at least seen how the resolution of the original screen looked like or looks like. That said, the LCD type is slightly above half the price of the OLED replacement screen. I think let's proceed to fixing our new replacement screen onto the frame. And as usual, first things first, have to make sure that the surfaces that are admitting the new screen are clean. I don't know whether surfaces has a plural form, but it's one continuous surface. I do not know. That's English. Help me with that isopropyl alcohol, the clear liquid. So I'm getting my clear liquid this, which I am going to use to clean the frame that will receive the screen. So rule of thumb is that, I may not even say rule of thumb, the law when it comes to bonding two surfaces together is that the surfaces that are being bonded need to be clean as can be, in which case we are going to clean this, knowing that that of the screen is already clean, at least by factory standards, it ought to be. And so I dip my tissue and then swab to and fro along the edges. Careful not to touch the camera. So I'd already scraped off the excess glue that was there before. So here I'm just using this liquid to clean up any greasy things around there. Now the middle part I'm cleaning simply to get rid of any dust debris that may be sitting between the frame and the screen, causing points of weakness. And having done that, I think let me also take this opportunity to sort of clean up the camera lens. To me, it doesn't look clear, more so when I try to use it in portrait mode. I could be wrong, but let's not take any chances, since there's no going back should it be truly dirty. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. I'm glad to have you around. I think if you reach this far, there's nothing much I can say than saying thank you. It means a lot. That gives value to our videos. The algorithm thinks we are doing something beneficial, and therefore it will also help this video reach someone who needs it at this kind of time. Okay, I think the surface is clean. Now the next thing is to apply adhesive to bond the two. I'm just blowing out any debris. The other thing that you might know is that when I plug the socket here, there's a cover that's supposed to cover. I do not have that. It has long been misplaced, so I'll improvise something that keeps the LCD plugged into the socket, because at times you'll have minor faults that are not strong enough to crack the screen. However, you also don't want the screen connector jumping out of the socket, because it's hard to take apart the screen from the frame when you still want it to work. It's easy to take off a dead screen. So I need screen replacement glue. I think if you don't watch the video about screen replacement glue, I'll link it down there. It's this that we have here. I use E8000. The reason is also mentioned in that video. Please do look for it and watch it. Otherwise, you risk not having the most perfect screen replacement materials. I'll begin with the frame. Now, the thought process here in applying adhesive is that you want to make sure it's not excess, but it's also sufficient. Two is that you want it to be roughly consistent. Now, this surface is much wider than that, so I begin with that because it will take longer for the solvent in the adhesive to evaporate from around these points. I am tempted to first clean up the speaker grills. I feel like there was excess adhesive from the previous repair, but anyway, I guess it's trivial. The adhesive I'm going to place may dissolve over it, and we begin to apply our adhesive. So boundary edges first. Then also you'll know that this surface here is supposed to also provide some support for the glass that is going to slip over it. So I'm going to put slightly more adhesive here to provide a base upon which the screen will slip. A base or a bed, whichever you like to call it. Be careful, do not clog the proximity sensor, neither the front-facing flashlight. It has just occurred to me that this one actually had a front-facing flashlight. How strange. All right. Then the bottom surfaces. Okay, be careful not to put adhesive on those pads, because the next time you want to replace the screen you may rip those home and back, I think it's recent apps and back tabs or touch points. These ones are not on the screen surface, so watch out on that. And now let me go around the peripheries. Okay, that's the sides of the phone. Since this takes up very little glue, I do it last, more or less. And then let me proceed to this side right there. I'm only hoping that this person is a little more careful than previously, because anyway, even the previous screen was of inferior quality, so perhaps he couldn't have helped it much even with his being careful. Anyway, now we come to the screen itself. We are also going to apply for good measure, because the adhesive adheres best when still molten, but then coheres also well in as much as it has already roughly hardened. Yeah, that's the reason I put on both surfaces, to make sure the bond is great. Notice that I'm beginning with the much wider surfaces, but then you should also be referencing it to the place it's going to make contact. Remember, we are preventing adhesive touching here, so while putting on this surface, keep in mind the frame of the phone and the areas along it for adhesive to bond. Okay, so since this is just for good measure, like to be thorough, I may not over put excess. Now the next thing is to deal with the peripheries of the screen, like that. Yeah, last time I used this glue, I barely was able to remove the screen off the frame. Quick question is, if any of you knows one that has a low, a low melting point, whose rubber has a relatively low melting point, perhaps under 90 degrees C, but still providing a strong bond, I think put it in the comment section. I'll be very glad, because there are times I really need to salvage these screens in a working manner, but all ends up in a destroyed screen. Okay, the blue membrane that you're seeing is simply to protect the screen while on shelf. However, because we don't want it consuming any space between the screen and the frame, causing the screen to raise up the surface, we have to peel it off. At times it's also very weird to peel off, which is it coming on wholeheartedly? It seems. Okay, and just like that, they really have to give it segments. I think this person just wanted to make a rather simple job complicated. Maybe perhaps repair is supposed to be a story, therefore some hardship needs to be introduced. I don't know. For some reason I can't get my finger in between that. So what do? Remember, I'm wearing gloves, so my fingernails are out of reach. I can't use them even if I wanted. Okay, how about I use a piece of this? Okay, and that's out of the way. Now for things first, plug in the screen, but make sure you've aligned it before you press it down. I mean, we also don't want to really damage the socket, because no screen is immune to death. We still need to have a working socket for future use. So now let me power on the phone. Okay, it's already lit up. Let me see, the touch works. Let me unlock. It unlocks. Voila. Now this is what I was telling you. To keep this plugged into the socket, I'm going to have to apply adhesive to the sides right there. This is rubber glue, so in future it's very easy to get rid of by simply applying solvent, which in my case is the very solvent that I used in cleaning the screen, sorry, the frame for screen replacement. Now last time this power button couldn't fit in the opening cut in the screen. I hope this time they did a better job. Yeah, it clicks well. So the next stage is simply thread therapy to keep the screen tied down as the adhesive dries. Okay, now threads, where are you? Okay, here are threads, and you might be wondering why I use the threads. I'm going to do a video next that will help explain why I use threads as opposed to rubber bands. So be on the lookout for the next video. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. It's always a pleasure having you guys around. I mean, I think anyone cares that they matter, or whatever they're doing matters, and your presence here is not lightly taken. And on that note, in case you have any recommendations, I'll be glad to take them up. So okay, I'm done with the longitudinal directions, so let me go for the transverse direction. Okay, yep, this do a very decent job for me. Now after this, these will be placed on a hot plate to accelerate the initial evaporation, but mostly at 40 degrees Celsius. And then final removal of threads will be 12 hours from now, which unfortunately you guys won't be so privileged to see unless this phone stays with me. But for now, this is to keep the screen evenly held down while the glue sets or dries. or solidifies, whichever. Okay, now with that, thanks for watching Phone Lookout, and let's be certain to share the videos, subscribe, share. Share. This is giving this phone more life for just under $30. Okay, let's unlock. See you. My lights are telling you goodbye.